everyone. Welcome to Mastering the Game Called School Intro. I'm Christine Didomenico, and I'm facilitating with Yasodhara Fernandes Romero. Did I say that backwards?
Yes, you did. You did. You said it backwards. How does it get better? Hello, everyone. Hi, Christine. And we have many languages on, so if you're looking for your language, please look in the chat. You'll find your line. And I would say thank you for everyone who is here creating this and curious about this. Maybe, Christine, you can say a little bit more about you, because I don't know for the people on here. Christine has been the director of the Access Consciousness School of Possibilities, and you also created like amazing clearing loops, unraveling all kind of limitations, which is kind of leading into this creation now.
Yeah, I was so excited when Yaso asked me to, if I wanted to facilitate the class with her, because she's been recommending my clearing loops apparently for a while. And I created these clearing loops on reading, writing, math, and test taking a number of years ago when I realized how many points of views that not just kids, but adults also have with these topics. And I became aware of this through my teaching in the public school. And then I had an Access for Knowledge tutoring center for a few years. And that's when it really was highlighted, because I had more interaction with parents and I could hear the points of views that parents had about their own so-called skills in areas like especially math. That's a big one, where people have decided that they're good at math, or most of the time they've decided they're not good at math. And then that gets passed on to their kids. So I created these clearing loops, and I've gotten such amazing feedback from people around the changes that have occurred for their kids and themselves. A lot of people use the writing right with ease clearing loop because they want to have ease with writing a book or any kind of writing. So it's been fun.
I love it. And I was just like in the last hour, I sneaked in and listened to the math one. And it was so it's so amazing actually to see. I think a lot of people actually don't realize that significance creates like a meaning, and all these kind of like ways are actually like, you know, how we limit rather than create possibilities. And if you've had like trouble in one area or another, how much meaning gets like put on by ourselves, by the parents, by the teachers, which all kind of takes away space. So I wonder, can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, oh, so much. I mean, people put themselves in these boxes, and they're really small boxes. And,
Not even a big box, a small box.
Yeah. And then when we put ourselves in a box like that with anything, whether it's something related to school or anything in your life, then that's all that can show up. There can't be another possibility. We can't even be aware that there could be a different possibility. And I actually was a physical education teacher, and I would see this with kids of points of views about their sport ability, right? So I started doing this little activity with kids where they would we'd start a new unit, and I'd say, well, what do you think about this? What is this something you like, you don't like? How do you look at this? And they would just throw out all these, they were points of views and beliefs they had. And then, so what we would do is we would take them and we'd put it in a big bubble. And then on 3, we would pop them. And so I did this with one class. I started it with one class. And when I started using it with other classes, one of the kids told me that, oh yeah, I learned this from Mary. She taught me this in swim practice. So it was just like this shift of perspective, or we call it in Access Consciousness our point of view, or just release our point of view. So I wonder how many points of views all of us have around, especially areas in school, since that's what we're talking about today, that are carried on into today. And you don't even know how it's affecting you today with limitations. So if you decided you're not good in math, when you don't like numbers, could you really have an abundance of money?
Oh. Yeah. And so basically like, so Christine and I are both access consciousness facilitators, because there might also be people online here that have no clue what access consciousness is. But access consciousness is actually like a way, like it's filled with tools, with processes to start to change the energy around limitations you have. And so we will use a lot of those tools in the class, in the calls. That will start to open up and give you like a different like point of view from where you can start looking at everything. What's the name of the clearing loops? I think we will include them in the after email with the call here, so you can like go there right away.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, so we have read with these, math with these, write with these, and take the stress out of test taking. Oh, and with that topic, test taking, I can see how, for myself, not only did I not really like tests when I was in school, but I didn't even like to be asked a question.
Wow.
Because there was so much judgment around, I have to have the right answer. And I saw that in my teaching. I remember specifically this one circumstance where I asked the kids a question and it did not have a right answer. There were many ways you could answer this question. And they all looked at me with these blank eyes. And at that moment, I realized they don't want to answer this question because they don't want to be wrong, even though there's not even a quote right answer. And so how many of us just stop even dreaming or creating something different and new that we might really desire to create because we don't want to do it wrong or get it. We're afraid we won't get it right. So we don't even make a choice.
Wow. Yeah, and how often, like, you know, it will play like in new languages, like, and it's so awesome because we have one brilliant translator on here, and like she told us right in a free Zoom that she was like, even like speaking English used to be something that was not ease. And so how many possibility streams in your life are actually like unconsciously avoided when you have points of views, like, for example, like, oh, I'm not good at language, or I'm not good at math, or whatever that is that you've made it to be. How much is it actually like not even allowing you to actually start seeing like, oh, would that actually be something that could be really easy for me and that I could start receiving through?
And many times it's just a big fat lie that we tell ourselves. And being that you brought up language, I live in New York, New Jersey area, and I have people from lots of cultures come to my classes, and so many of those people for which English is a second language tell me that they don't speak English well. And I look at them with this puzzled look because as far as I'm concerned, they're speaking wonderfully. So if we start becoming aware of the lies, like that they're truly lies that we tell ourselves, what could change?
Yeah. And this is something I saw a lot also with the children that I've been teaching. They're like, they have so much decisions about like, even like, okay, so I'm not good at that. And because it's like often like easier for a lot of them to actually know that they're gonna fail. That was something that was surprising me when I started looking at this. It's like for a lot of kids, sometimes it's easier because they know how everybody's gonna react. And so starting to actually get them to also see like, hey, you have another choice here, you don't have to, but like opening that door has allowed them to really leap beyond things that they could never have imagined, because they were so stuck in their points of views about, oh no, I'm not good at that, oh, I'm already going to fail with this test. So I really wonder also through this calls what we can start to open up for the kids that people on here might be teaching, or you might be having them running around in your house or in your family. Because literally often by taking away one belief, a totally different present and future start showing up immediately. And that's the crazy thing, right? Because in school, how often have we learned that we need to work before we can have a result or a different result and the change? But these tools and clearings are very often instantaneously changing stuff.
Yeah, and what comes up when you talk about that is how much do we really truly know that maybe we haven't been able to answer on a test or even verbally in a classroom, yet you've got it. You've got the energy of whatever that is that was being talked about in school. Now for me, I used to think I was stupid. And because, I had to really work hard to get decent grades. But I always said to myself, but I have a lot of common sense. And what I realized when I started learning about energy and awareness is that what I was calling common sense was really my awareness. So
Wow.
what was I aware of, which included what was being taught and talked about in school, and what was I aware of even beyond that?
That's amazing. It's truly like it's
about 50 years to get to that place.
Yeah, and this is like, for most of us, like I think probably a lot of adults are in here, and what if we could just like start to invite like the youth around us to have it that quicker? Because like it's not because we take 30 or 40 or 50 years that it has to take that long for them. If we're willing, then that's also like a thing where like, when you choose something different as a teacher or a parent or somebody that's around children, like it creates this different space for them. And that was also something where I looked a lot as a teacher, like, okay, so what can I be here that will allow them actually to go beyond the limitations, where teaching started to become a lot about being rather than doing. And so we have 2 questions in the chat also. Maybe, are we going to go for the Turkish one first?
Let's go for it.
We have one question here, and I will quickly read in Turkish and then translate.
Yes.
Diyorlar ki evde çarpım tablosunu ezberleyemediğim için çok azarlandım. Şu anda da okuduklarım aklımda kalmıyor. Derslerde de unutuyordum. Bunun için neler mümkün demiş. She says people were getting angry to her just because she couldn't memorize the things while she was reading, and also she was so bad at times table, like multiplication table. So what else is possible for this, she says?
Well, with the multiplication tables, I wonder what is different? What is different way does she get that information? Like, I know for me, when I was growing up, we just had to memorize multiplication tables. Today, when I've worked with kids, they have different ways of teaching the multiplication tables. And I wonder what else is available, or what else has this person who's asking this question, how do you get that information? Well, that's so different than anything we've seen.
Shall I throw in my master favorite clearing actually with this?
Yeah, go for it. And somebody asked, how do we take away a belief? So here's a way.
Well, one of the things that I used to ask my students, and I'm sure you know that question too, Christine, but it was like, okay, so what do you know about this that you pretend not to know? That if you would allow yourself to know it, would allow the information you require to get to you. And it was interesting because it was a question I would usually ask them 3 to 5 times when I was working with them. And so I'd ask like, okay, so what is it you know? And then the first time they would look at me and they would be like, well, it's clear I don't know anything. That's why I'm asking you the question. That's why I'm here. That's why you're teaching me, because you know something and I don't. And so I would not react to any of what came out of their mouths, because that were all their beliefs, right? They would give me all their beliefs about, I don't know, and that's why I'm here. And so there's all this story coming along. And I would ask them again, so what is it that you know, that you pretend not to know? That if you would allow yourself to know it, would actually allow the information you require to come to you. And so after 3 to 5 times, and this is just one of the tools, and I'm like, sure, we're gonna have many more on the calls. But what started to happen was that they went beyond that point where it was like, oh, I don't know anything. And now we had to start looking for all the I don't knows. So I would definitely, if you're here on this call and you want to start playing with one subject, start asking yourself that question. So what is it that I know here that I pretend not to know? Because it will start opening up your awareness where you might have been shutting it down from the moment you started school, right? How many spaces have you been shutting down because you couldn't do it as you were supposed to actually do it? Not because you couldn't do it, just because it wasn't as it was supposed to be done.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And when we go, it could take just one moment in time for that to start occurring. And then it's like this little tiny dot grows into this huge, massive boulder of limitation. And what I sense is that there is absolutely no relaxation around that. And so it's like, imagine you're skiing down a hill. If you're a skier, imagine if you were really tight, all your muscles were tight. Like, could you actually ski? Could you throw a ball? Can you do anything with your body when you're tense? No. And I know that when I tensed when I was skiing, I would fall. So, so if we start just relaxing, take a breath around it, and it allows, and with those questions that Yaso just gave us, then relaxation can start occurring, and it can just create all this space for the information then to be there, for your knowing to shine through. Because it can't shine through when we're like this. But when we relax into it, it's like, woo, it all starts coming.
And I love that you bring up the skier, because like for some, if you haven't done Access, maybe this sounds a little like, where is the hard work? How can it change through asking a question? And so the fun part when I started teaching was exactly that we started to actually, also all my students knew it, when they actually got tensed, that was exactly the moment where everything would fall apart. And since I was mainly like a singing teacher, and I used to like help them with some other subjects as well if they were like not getting through them, but it was very audible. And so they started actually to hear when, rather than actually flying and taking the leap because something that was new or more difficult would come on, most of us learned to actually crisp, like, oh my God, there's this, I need to do math again, or like, I'm gonna get tested. And so what they all started to see was, if they actually managed in that moment to realize like, oops, that's where I have this, okay, no, I'm gonna choose something else. And so sometimes it would be with questions or clearings, which will dive deeper in the calls also, that they became more aware already before they would go to this place. And so it would be like this first, like, oh no, I'm gonna choose something else. And every single time they did, they would succeed. And it became like this very different paradigm, to actually start teaching from, because it was more looking at, okay, so how can we create space here? Because what I started seeing was that actually they knew everything. They could like succeed at everything as long as there was space. And the only minute it would go wrong for all of them was when that contractions would set in. And so it had nothing to do with intelligence. It had nothing to do with your ability to learn. And for me, that was the thing, like in school, when I started to realize that, I was like, wow, so we're making them work harder. We're making us work harder, but I'm not sure if that's actually the thing that's going to do it.
Yeah. So step one, recognize when you're in that contracted, tight space. And just that alone can start changing it. And I would say also and this goes to the topic of the person that asked the question about getting yelled at. So that, recognizing that that's not about you. That's, there's a saying like, what somebody else's judgment is none of your business. Right. So when somebody's yelling at you, there's something going on for them, maybe some frustration, if they're a teacher and they haven't been in their mind been able to help you, then that's their stuff going on. So recognizing that too. And, before I had these tools as a teacher and a parent, I was very controlling. I was a very different person then. And so I look at the things that I said and did with my own kids, and boy, if I parented today, I would parent very different. And when I was teaching and I received these tools and I became aware of what my points of views and my need to control, how that was affecting the kids that I work with, my own kids, and then I started releasing that and letting it go and looking at things from a different point of view. So if you're the student, you can, even if you're the child and someone else is the adult, there's, that doesn't make a difference. All right. That's their point of view. Doesn't make it right just because they're a parent or a teacher.
I want to ask a question now. Like, how many of what you made you to be today, like all the I cans and I cannots, have just had nothing to do with you all along? So everything that brings up, shall we like to try and uncreate it and use the clearing statement? If you want to know more about the clearing statement, please look at theclearingstatement.com. But let's clear like all the things you've made real and true about you that had nothing to do, that was actually none of your business and was just belonging to the people that were teaching you, your parents, and it said more about them than about you. Oh my God, this is like right, wrong, or bapuk, bottle, nature, its boys and beyonds. Thank you so much for putting that in there.
And so that when we talked about the clearing loops, that is an example of a clearing from the clearing loop. So we ask a question, we ask you if you'll destroy and uncreate it. That's your choice to say yes or not. And then we use that weird right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, shorts, boys, beyonds. And it's like wiping away all of that energy that was created at any moment in time or many moments in time, and clears it out of existence, so you don't any longer have to function from that point of view. You can have a different choice and a different possibility.
And that's something also as a parent or a teacher, if you can actually get to the place where you don't buy into even what your children tell you, like, you just receive it and that's just their points of views. But what if you start looking at, okay, even like if something has been like, how sometimes a student becomes like a bad student if he has like 2 or 3 times in a row like a bad result with a particular subject. And then we start to go into like, well, it's like 3 tests. That's not like, now you're becoming like you're becoming someone, right? You're becoming not the best of the class, or you're becoming a troubled child. And so through actually taking all these things away, how would you look? Because it definitely like starts also pointing you towards a certain direction. If you look from the position of like, oh, I'm not good at something, or your children do that, will they see as much as they would if that wasn't in place?
Yeah, that actually occurred with my son when he was 8 years old in second grade. He was diagnosed with ADD. And he told me, I believe it was the year he graduated high school, he said to me, the teachers started treating me like I was stupid when I got diagnosed with ADD. And I, no fault of the teachers. This is, this is not to make anybody wrong as a parent or a teacher, and I know both sides of that. And we have done the best that we knew how at the time. And so, especially with diagnosis too, it's like, and there was some value in it because my son got a lot of extra help when he was diagnosed and had this label. And at the same time, there was so much energy attached to that he couldn't do it or he wasn't smart when he was very creative, very bright child, but all these points of view get piled on, and then it's like this, there's a fog for the parent, for the teacher, for the child, that masks who that person actually is.
Wow.
So is it time to unmask all of you here on this call, listening after?
Yeah.
Take away the veil. Let's see the real you, the potent you that knows it all.
I love it. And if there is, does anybody has questions also? Because it's actually like a free Zoom to, like we said it was 30 minutes. So if you have a question. And so my guess is for this call that it's going to be also like a lot of like really clearing and really getting to like see like, okay, what's coming up for you when we actually ask you that question? What's coming up when we actually go there? So you can start to see also and become present with, wow, what are the points of views that I have here that I didn't even realize that I had? What do all these subjects mean to you?
And even as we've been chatting, what has come up for you as a parent and all the wrongness you're going to for being a bad parent when your children had trouble. I know I remember with my daughter, my oldest, being so impatient when she was reading at night because I was tired. I had worked all day, I'd worked with kids all day. I come home, they have homework. And oh my gosh, and I had to go to the wrongness of me. But like I said before, I was doing the best that I could at that moment. So anywhere, any of you have any wrongness of yourselves as a student, as a child, as a parent, as a teacher, will you destroy and uncreate all that now? Right, wrong, good, bad, all 9, pod, poc, shorts, boys and beyonds.
And somebody is asking in the program, will we share what comes up for us and needs to be cleared? Yeah, I would say there will be definitely space for that, to actually ask questions and come forward with what you'd like to change. Because what usually happens on this like calls or classes is that you'll ask a question and you're for sure not the only one who has actually been like carrying around that energy or carrying around that limitation. So I'm always a big fan of like looking at what's going on for the people in the group, because you're not by accident usually on a call.
And we have a question in the Portuguese chat.
Shall we take that one and the Turkish one as last, and then we're gonna wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because some translators might have to go since we said it. Juliana!
Yes. So I'll read it in Portuguese and then I'll translate it, okay?
Yes.
Então, a Cristina está perguntando, meu filho tem 7 anos, está aqui comigo nessa classe, ele é incrível, muito inteligente, mas em algum momento ele criou que não consegue ler e escrever. Ele quer muito, colocamos ele em outro método de ensino, mas ele criou um lugar na sua mente onde estudar é horrível. Ele fica muito bravo, irritado, chora, que ele quer muito, mas ele não entende. Ele só sabe que não concorda como as escolas deviam ser diferentes. Como podemos ter uma pergunta para possibilitar facilidade para ele ou dissolver esse sentimento, mostrando que ele é capaz. So, Christine is saying that, Christiane is saying that her kid is 7-year-old and he's with her watching the call. He is amazing, very intelligent, but at some point he created that he can't read or write. And he wants to do this badly, and they put him in another school method, but he created this place where studying is horrible, and he gets angry, very annoyed, and cries. And she's asking, what can we ask to create a possibility of ease for him, or even dissolve this feeling, showing him that he's capable.
You take it, or I take it?
Go ahead, Yasa.
So what I would like ask the kid dynamically with everything that shows up is like, okay, what are you aware of? What are you aware of? Like, even if it shows up in, oh, I can't write or I can't read, what are you aware of? And my guess is that we're going to talk a lot about that also in calls, because like most children, and actually most of us, but children dynamically will be very, very aware of the universes of parents, teachers, other kids in school. Some of them like might be healers. And so there is, for some of them, like this need to actually facilitate other children. But within that, if they don't acknowledge it, sometimes like dynamically handicap themselves to the point where they will be a failure, where they're actually dynamically facilitating. I probably think like none of the adults do that, you know, where you handicap or hurt yourself in the facilitation of others. So, but that's what I would say. Christine, what would you?
Yeah, the same thing came up for me. Like, how much is that not yours, that you are picking up the points of views or all of the things Yaso just mentioned? I had a friend whose son was in elementary school, had lots of anger issues. He would just fly off the handle, and when he changed schools, that went away. So how much was he aware of something in the building, something on the land, something with someone else in the school, that when he left that school and went somewhere else, it went away? So yeah, what are you aware of?
I'm so excited already with this. Like, do you like just already through this conversation and what Christine is just saying, like, by acknowledging how aware you are, you might start finding that actually in all the topics that we're going to discuss there, the issue is not there. So even through looking at that and trying to change that, it's actually not going to change until you acknowledge what is actually creating the limitations. And so, yeah, I would say if it's like ringing a bell, join the calls. We have country pricing, we have translation. What else is possible beyond that? To start to acknowledge what are the capacities rather than the wrongness with all of this.
Yeah. So the Turkish question, and then we have one from Gladys too.
This is the same lady who asked the previous question, actually. And she says, sometimes studying cannot be unbearable. And I run away from studying, and sometimes it becomes so hard. This is what she texts here.
What are you aware of?
We're going to say that a lot. Who does it belong to?
Thank you, Ola, for sharing that. Yeah, who does it belong to? What are you aware of? And then through running the clearings, running the questions that we'll have for you during these calls, you'll also start to become aware of all these crazy things that are hanging in your universe, that you might not even know that are hanging there, right? And then suddenly, like, the beautiful thing is also through the conversations we had already, like, so some people suddenly became aware, like, oh, my mom always used to say, like, no, we don't do that in our families. And you have totally forgotten that. And the minute you get that, like, oh, my mother said, or my father said, a totally different, like, sky can open up.
Yeah. And Gladys is asking a question about not being good at technology because she didn't learn it when it was younger. So who does that belong to? How many people that did not learn technology when they were younger have the point of view that they can't be good technologically? So everything that is, we destroy and uncreate it. Right, wrong, good, bad, all name, papak, shorts, boys, meons. Because it doesn't have to be that because you didn't learn it, even if you never learned it, what do you know?
And if you didn't had a limitation, because this is also I think this is a brilliant example of how how children also will create their thing, how they will also often, like, when do your kids actually come to you as a teacher or as a parent, right? I have a limitation with this. So what will it take with all of us together to start creating a future also in which, like, actually people come and ask you a question because they are wondering about greater awareness. And that is actually a thing I started seeing also as a teacher, is like, wow, what if every time that the children come and ask you a question, it's actually because they have an awareness about something. So if you'd be willing to actually look at, oh, what question can I ask them? So they can actually open that up rather than just give them my answer, my point of view. What else is gonna be possible for them and for their future?
Love that. Yeah. And what I know for myself, it's sometimes when there's something that's not comfortable, like technology, are you willing to be uncomfortable and just, go for it? Because if we're always looking for comfort, then we're just always going to stay the same, right? I mean, I would say to kids, like they would say, well, third grade math was so much easier. I said, but was it when you started third grade? Wasn't there some discomfort with it? But now that's really comfortable. Now you have to take the leap up to the next step. And then that becomes comfortable. So are you willing to go out of your comfort zone with technology and just step into it and allow something different to show up?
Oh my God, let's leave out the technology. Like, guys, are you all willing to go beyond your comfort zone also with writing, with reading, with math, and with test taking? Because, like, what is going to be available if you are? And I think, like, this call is called, like, Mastering the Game, called School. So I wonder what we can actually get to with these calls. We start in 1 week, right?
Yes, we start 1 week from today.
Yes.
Yep. It's 1 hour later than this one started, correct?
Yes. And please, if you would like translation, register on time so we all know that you're on. You can choose for 1 call, but you can also choose like the whole package. And please, we'll put the link also in the website, and it's also in the autoresponder. So if you're up for this adventure, there will also be audio recordings, and there will be PDFs with all the clearings and the questions that we ask that are like the main questions that will be on the call. So we have a wonderful lady, Marlene, who will be oracling all of that and writing it down. So you can also use them if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, or just for yourself.
Yes, you can do it covertly too. I used to just take my phone to work with me and just play these clearings on very low volume. and they receive it. And you receive it.
Oh, you mean as a teacher? I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say thank you so much for tonight, everyone.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you to all the translators and everyone involved in this creating. Yeah, and see you soon. See you on the 27th.
Yes, very grateful for all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. How
Thank you.
long are the calls? I asked on the chat. I didn't.
Oh,
know
they're
how
an
long.
hour and a half, Becky.
Great.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you.
Good to see you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.